Well, good morning, everyone. You may have in your bulletin the orange insert that's going to be our message outline, and I would like to begin with a question. What are some ways that we can practically fulfill the second greatest commandment? Not the first, but the second commandment. So we're going to remind ourselves of what Jesus said in Matthew 22, beginning in verse 34. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Pharisees, the Sadducees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. Notice, tested him. Is he coming to Jesus for information so he can be better? No. He wants to find some flaws in Jesus' teaching so they can accuse him. Teacher, so they kind of butter him up a little bit. He butters them up. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Verse 37, Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So how can we practically love our neighbor in a way that makes a lasting spiritual impact on them? Because that's really what loving your neighbor is all about. It's not about simply saying, I acknowledge I love my neighbor. Oh, I love you. You have been made in the image of God. I love you. It's more than that. It's about how we can spiritually impact people's lives. And the answer is by investing in the two things, the only two things that are going to last forever: the Word of God and people's souls. And when we invest in those two things, then we are loving our neighbor. Paul summarizes love in Colossians 3, verse 12, when he says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And over all of these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. So what he says is that the love we have for each other is the love we need to have for our neighbor. So what exactly is this love? I get it, we're supposed to love, but that's pretty broad. What exactly is this love? I would say very quickly it's three things. Number one, it's being concerned about people's problems. Number two, it's being concerned about people's eternal destiny. And number three, it's meeting people's basic needs. One day in Luke 10, another lawyer came to Jesus and asked him the question, who is my neighbor? And Jesus answered by giving the famous story of the Good Samaritan. And in that story of the Good Samaritan, we learn the principles of what it means to love our neighbor. Everyone has basic physical needs that gives us access to their eternal needs. Because you can't always directly access a person's spiritual needs for various reasons. Sometimes, in order to get to the spiritual needs, you have to go through physical needs. And so there was a fellow by the name of Abraham Maslow, born 1908, died 1970. He was a psychologist. And he came up with what has become known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we are going to look at this pyramid beginning at the bottom and working the way up to the top. And we're going to apply the principles of Maslow's hierarchy to loving our neighbor. Now, before we do that, let's just briefly discuss each level on the pyramid. Now, level 1, which is down at the bottom, at the base, at the widest part, is what is called physiological needs. Every human being has 4 needs that must be met. If these 4 needs are not met, we cannot survive as human beings. We can't live. We have to have food and water and warmth and rest. And if a person doesn't have these needs met, they're not going to be able to focus on anything else. The reason why we are able to sit in this room and greet one another and smile and sing and listen to the message is because these 4 needs are being met in our lives right now. If you are hungry, I promise you, you're not interested in listening to a sermon on the book of Revelation. If you are thirsty, I promise you, you're not interested or thinking about buying a new barbecue grill. If you are cold, you're not thinking about replacing the old carpeting in your living room. If you are sleep deprived, I promise you're not thinking about mowing the lawn. And so Jesus in his public ministry, he physically healed people. Whether he gave them sight or the ability to walk, he healed them so that they could start focusing on spiritual things. Because there will be no focus on spiritual things until we have food, water, warmth, and rest. So that's level 1. Now the next levels, 2, 3, 4, and 5, are not totally essential in order for us to survive. We can survive without them. But when we have our needs met at levels 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will feel like more complete human beings. So level 2, second up from the bottom, are safety needs. I mean, you can exist without feeling safe, but it's nice when you feel safe, right? Do I feel safe? Is there a roof over my head? And then the next one up is level 3. This is the need to belong and feel love. The Bible said a long time ago that it is not good for man to be alone. And what this is teaching broadly is that people need relationships. You need a relationship. It may be a relationship at work. It may be a relationship with another person. It may be a spiritual relationship with God. It may be all 3 of those. The statement, it is not good for man to be alone, has a broader application than marriage in the context of Genesis 2. Now, there's no doubt that he's talking about marriage, Adam and alone, and he's going to bring Eve. And when he sees Eve, what did he see? What did he say when he saw Eve for the first time? He said, "Wow, man," which became in English, woman. Woman is just a shortened form of wow, man. You don't get that everywhere. You have to come here to get kind of the inside scoop on the Bible. But this idea, not good for man to be alone, broader application than marriage. And then level 4, as we're moving up to the top of the pyramid, is esteem needs. People want to be respected and affirmed, for the most part. We would like to be respected. We don't agree always with each other, but we would like to be respected. We would like someone to affirm us occasionally and say, "You're a significant human being." How about we just say that on 3, the count of 3. Just turn to anybody and say, "You are a significant human being." 1, 2, 3. You are a significant human being. Okay, that feels good. Makes you feel a little bit better. And then at the very top, the peak, this peak, It's bigger than the one in my notes. Oh, okay. All right. It was just shaded a little different. Is what is called, this is level 5 at the very top. Big word, self-actualization. What? That doesn't mean anything. That mean anything to you? It may, because some of you are pretty smart. Didn't mean anything to me. I have to put it in common terminology. In common terminology, it means having something to live for. That's what it means. As Christians, we understand that there is a spiritual mission that God has called us to do in using our talents to help others, or as Jesus calls it, loving your neighbor. So these are the 5 basic levels of needs that everyone has. And we're going to take a look at how we can use these 5 basic needs in application to loving our neighbor. So we're going to call them actions. Action 1, action 2, action 3, just action. We want an action word, a word that means doing something. So action 1 is we can offer people physical assistance. This is level 1 on the pyramid. It's the base, physiological needs. There are opportunities for us to help on a congregational level and on an individual level. The statement that I'm going to make, I believe, is generally true, and that most of you are going to agree with it. We can find as many legitimate opportunities to help as we have time for and ambition to pursue. It's not like it's a big mystery on how to find something that you can do that can help other people. Not a big mystery. So James, who may have been the half-brother of Jesus, in the book of James, which is the most practical New Testament book, it is 5 chapters, and all 5 chapters are 100% pure application. No real doctrine, just application. It says in James 1:27, religion that God our Father accepts as pure, and if it's pure, that means it's not fake, and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. So when you look at this passage closely and break it down, James says that genuine religion is 2 things. Number 1, it is public compassion, taking care of orphans and widows in their distress. And number 2, it is private morality. You're keeping yourselves away from the polluted world. I don't believe that the care of orphans and widows is the only expression of genuine religion. James is simply using it as an example or a category or a type or a demonstration of religion that is not fake, that is pure and real. But there's many other ways that we can express genuine faith. He gives another example in the next chapter in James 2, verse 14. What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, go, I wish you well, keep warm, well fed, but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is that? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. So God is concerned about a person's physical well-being as much as he is concerned about their spiritual well-being. The application of these 2 passages to us is this: faith is something that needs to be visible. So level 1 of Maslow's hierarchy, which is physiological needs, what that means to us is we can offer people physical assistance, congregationally, individually. Action 2 Action number 2 is offer people emotional support. Offer people emotional support. This is level 2 of the hierarchy. People have deep emotional needs because they're fearful, they're insecure, they're worried, they're resentful, they're depressed, they're lonely. Everyone has hidden hurts. And notice I did not say everyone here has a hidden hurt. Oh, wouldn't it be nice just to have one? Everyone here has hidden hurts. And if they tell you they don't, beware, they lie about other things too. So in Galatians 6:2, it says, share each other. By the way, he didn't say solve. Can't always solve. It'd be nice if we could solve each other's problems. Share each other's troubles and problems, and in this way, obey the law of Christ. I want to obey the law of Christ. Do you want to obey the law of Christ? What is the law of Christ? Are you ready? The law of Christ is loving your neighbor as yourself. Paul is telling us what it means to love your neighbor. It's offering people words of encouragement, comfort, and kindness. And this is why we have small groups, Bible classes. It's a way of sharing each other's troubles and problems, and it's a way that we can encourage one another from a biblical perspective. And you know that someone else can't always solve your problems, but sometimes just to feel somebody just pat you on the back and say, I'm thinking about you, or I'm praying for you. It's just those words of encouragement that keep you going and keep you maintaining your faith. So practically, how can I show someone emotional support? It may be as simple as asking, can I pray for you? There is an old cliche, and not all cliches are bad. Some of them get beat to death a little bit, I understand. But this still has a lot of truth to it. It's totally true that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we can offer people emotional support. I am thinking about you. I am praying for your situation. I love you. Yes, you're welcome. Someone said thank you. Action 3 is offer loving hospitality. Offer loving hospitality. This is level 3 on the pyramid, belonging and the need to be loved. So in Romans 15:7, so warmly welcome each other into the church, just as Christ has warmly welcomed you, then God will be glorified. Now the word welcome, well, yeah, it means more than, hey, how are you? J.B. Phillips, in his Phillips translation, which was one of the first modern language translations to come out shortly after World War II, really gets to the heart and the meaning of what's being said here. Phillips says, open your hearts to one another. So this is talking about receiving people into your life, being hospitable on a congregational level and on an individual level. Romans 12 talks about having hospitality. Listen, I believe every Christian is required to be hospitable, that is, to be nice. We all can be nice. But there are some among us who have the gift of hospitality. We all need to be hospitable. But some of you have the gift. And they're the ones that we want to put over our small groups and Bible classes and children's church, because they have the gift. I think we can all be friendly. But there are some of you who just exude that gift of friendliness. We want you to welcome our guests as they come in on Sunday. We don't want the people who are all upset and bent out of shape. Well, we're all upset and bent out of shape about something. You know what I'm talking about. So you understand when I say we're all responsible for being hospitable, but some have the gift. That's true with the other requirements in the Bible. But yes. So in 2 Corinthians 6:12, I came across this in the Living Bible paraphrase, and I like the way that it's worded. I think that it really brings the meaning out in the English language. He says, any coldness still between us is not because of any lack of love on my part, but because your love is too small and does not reach out and draw me in. So real love reaches out and draws in, right? Sometimes you just know a person is lonely. And you're not probably going to be able to solve all of their loneliness problems, but you can reach out and draw them in. So I want to ask the question. This is one of those rhetorical questions like I do just about in every lesson. How big is your love? What I'm asking is, does your love extend beyond your physical family? Now, as a congregation, one thing we can do is make sure no visitor feels lonely. How about that? Can we do that? And listen, if you're not sure if somebody's a member here and you walk up to them and you say, hey, I'm glad that you're here this Sunday, and they're like a member, but they haven't been here in like 6 months, well, good for them. Maybe they'll start thinking about maybe I ought to come more often so they know I'm a regular member here. So don't hold back because you're not exactly sure who somebody is. Can you be a friend to the person at work who's going through a difficult time? People go through difficult times financially, in relationships. Can you be a friend? Can you reach out and draw them in? And you can, and you are. But let me tell you what the problem is. The longer you are a believer, the fewer non-believing friends you have. Generally speaking. Because you just start hanging out with the believers. But if there are some things that you like to do that you could occasionally do with a non-believer, and I'm not saying that they deny Jesus. By non-believer, I mean just they don't have a religious affiliation, then you have an opportunity to make a lasting spiritual impact on their lives. So offer loving hospitality. Number 4, this is offer people generous affirmation. Generous affirmation. This is level 4 of the pyramid, which is called esteem needs. Not everybody is competitive because we're all made a little different. However, there is one area where God wants all of us to compete, and that's showing honor to each other. It says in Romans 12:2, I love this. This is the English Standard Version, which is probably the most literal English version we have. It's right up there with the American Standard of 1901. Outdo one another in showing honor. How about that for competition? How about in a marriage if husbands and wives would start competing with who could love the other more? Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you, darling. And it not be fake, of course. Christians ought to be the best encouragers in the world. And we want to be famous for building people up and not tearing them down. And you are great encouragers. People say all the time, y'all friendly, y'all friendly. Wonderful, good. Come back then to the friendly place. Be friendly to you next Sunday. 1 Peter 2:17, it says, show proper respect to everyone. Now, okay, I'm telling a little bit of a story here. This is not literally true. But I thought that this passage said, show respect to everyone who agrees with you. Because it's so easy. I love it when you agree with me. I love it when we're talking about, some deep thing in the book of Daniel. Oh, what do you think about that, Bruce? Oh, I think this. Oh, I think that too. Oh, I love you. We agree. Do you know that we have to show respect? That's easy to show respect when people agree with you. That we have to show respect to people. Are you ready for this? You may have to hold on. Grab something. Grab the person next to you. We have to show respect to people who have a different political view than us. Could even belong to a different political party. I know this is getting tough. We have to show respect to people who have a different religious affiliation. They may have an entirely different worldview than what we have. But here's something very, very important to remember. There are many people who consider themselves devoutly religious, and they don't know anything about the Bible, and they don't know Jesus Christ as the Son of God. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because when we have discussions with people, generally we assume there is a commonality between us in a basic understanding of the Bible and morality. But that may not always be true. So how do you show proper respect? Look for ways to recognize, compliment, comfort, and affirm people. Now, it sounds easy, but in application it's actually rather difficult. How do you do this when the person at your company gets the promotion that maybe you should have gotten? Well, listen, if you can't say good, just shut up. What, is that okay to say shut up? There's no children in here, are there? I don't know if you're supposed to say shut up. But be silent. Be silent. What about the person in your department who's getting the sales record this year? The sales record. They're in your department. And it's going to be a little bit tough. You know what's easy to do. It's easy to show sympathy when someone has lost someone. That's easy to do. Because the Bible says, weep with those who weep and rejoice with those who rejoice. But what the text doesn't tell you is it's a whole lot easier to weep with those who weep than it is to rejoice with those who rejoice. Whole lot easier. Okay? And so we can offer people generous affirmation. And then number 5. Offer people the true meaning of life. The true meaning of life. This is level 5 of the pyramid. It is the peak or the top of the pyramid that is called self-actualization. We call it fulfilling your spiritual mission. It's using your gifts and your talents to encourage people to make a decision for God. So in John 10:10, Jesus said something that's become very well known. This is a very well known passage. I don't know that it's fully understood generally. But he said, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Or maybe some versions, fullest. The full. What is the full life? I'm going to tell you. We sometimes interpret this passage from an American cultural view. As an American, when you tell me in Jesus I'm going to have the full life, I am thinking that I've just had seafood. I'm full. I'm down at the beach. My toes are slightly in the sand. Little breeze coming across. And I say to myself, I love the full life. I think we have associated full with external peace and comfort. But that's not what Jesus had in mind here when he said they can live life to the full. He's talking about the Christian life. The Christian life is the full life. So, what is Christianity? I thought about that this past week and I decided to write a definition because I have to have definitions for things, and so that gives me something to think about. So I'm going to give you my definition of Christianity, which is the full life. Christianity is when God puts His life into you through His Son, Jesus Christ, and you begin living according to His values. That's what it means to live life to the full. Living life to the full doesn't mean a problem-free life. It means a life committed to the Lord. So these 5 things we can do on our own, and we can do together as a church. And when we do things together as a church, it gives us the opportunities to make a broader impact than if we do it alone. Now, we participate in what is called Family Promise of the Gulf Coast. And it's an organization that is helping people to get back on their feet. And they're working and they're making money and they're doing the things that we would agree with. And so every few months we put up several families at the church building for a week, provide them with bed and food. And last time, one of the families stayed over and attended our Sunday morning service. That's how impressed they were with you and with your hospitality and with your love. So we do want to offer things on a congregational level. So we are going to announce now. Put on your calendar, mark October the 15th. That's the third Sunday in the month because October comes in on a Sunday. We are going to have our Family and Friends Day, October the 15th. And there will be a meal that follows. And we'll have some printed material so you can invite someone and say, just like you're interested in church, you can come and be a part of our service, October the 15th. And I'm going to have a lesson on the 5 ways to avoid hell. No, just joking. We had that last week. I think we had that lesson last week, but we talked about what hell is. I'm going to have a message on what the New Testament church is and how you can be personally benefited by belonging to the New Testament church. So it'll be an appropriate lesson. I don't know what the title is yet, but it's going to be an appropriate lesson. So let's name the 5 qualities. Number 1, we can offer people physical assistance, level 1. Number 2, we can offer people emotional support. 3, we can offer loving hospitality. 4, we can offer generous affirmation. And 5, we can offer people the true meaning of life. Habakkuk said this long ago in his short 3-chapter book. I have heard all about you, Lord. I am filled with awe by your amazing works. In this time of our deep need, help us again as you did in years gone by. I believe that principle applies to us. I believe that the Lord has been with us and He has helped us in the past, and I believe that He's going to be with us in the future, and that in the future is going to be our golden age. I don't believe we've had our golden age yet. Although some of us have reached the golden age, I guess, as chronological age goes. All of us have a story to tell on how we came to the Lord. Many years ago, I typed mine out. My long version is 3 minutes. My short version on how I came to the Lord, I can do in less than a minute. My conversion story is the most important story of my life, certainly from an eternal perspective. And it's the most important story in your life. We want other people to come to know the Lord, to be baptized, so that they too can have a conversion story to tell. What is interesting is that Luke, who wrote, obviously, Luke, but he also wrote the book of Acts. And in the book of Acts, get this, 3 times he repeats the salvation story of Paul. The conversion of Paul gets repeated 3 times in chapters 9, 22, and 26. Why? Why repeat something 3 times? Because from God's perspective, nothing is more important than how you came to the Lord. And certainly when Paul came to the Lord, in the years to come, many people would be influenced by it. We're still being influenced by what he wrote, the 13 New Testament books. I don't know if he wrote Hebrews or not. In Christianity, there are 2 symbols, public symbols of our faith and love. Number 1 is baptism, And number 2 is communion. Baptism, which is immersion in water, is a one-time demonstration of one's acknowledgement of Jesus Christ as God's Son. And baptism by immersion is a symbol of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Communion is a weekly symbol of our commitment to the sacrifice of Jesus' body and blood for us. Communion is a public declaration acknowledging what the Lord has done for us. And so in a couple of minutes, as we eat the cracker and drink the juice, and we're doing it publicly, as we do it in front of each other, as we do each week, we are acknowledging, I believe. I believe in Jesus. I believe in what Jesus has done for me. So baptism and communion. Baptism is important, and if it's something that you haven't considered, we would love for you to consider. We believe it's eternally important. Stephen is going to lead us in an invitation hymn, and if you have a particular need, please let us know what it is while we stand and sing.